strategy, statecraft, and war. High-level principles, historical lessons, and ethical considerations. Strategy sits at the intersection of politics, resources, and human will. Historically, military strategy has been a tool of policy. It is about shaping decisions, preserving national interests, and influencing opponents' choices. But strategy does not exist in a vacuum. It is constrained by politics, economics, logistics, law, and morality. This essay explores the conceptual foundations of strategy, extracts enduring lessons from historical campaigns, situates military action within political and ethical boundaries, and surveys non-kinetic means and defensive approaches states use to pursue security and strategic objectives. 1. Strategy as a political instrument. Clausewitz's aphorism, "War is the continuation of politics by other means," remains central. Strategic success requires clarity of political objectives. Vague or contradictory political aims produce strategic incoherence. Military operations without clear objectives produce unsustainable costs and ambiguous outcomes. Before any use of force, leaders should ask, what political end is being sought? Are available instruments, diplomatic, economic, informational, military, adequate and proportionate? What risks and long-term consequences does action entail? Aligning ends, ways, and means is essential. Ends are political goals. Ways are the campaigns and policies to achieve them. Means are the resources, financial, human, material, institutional, available. 2. Principles of strategy, high level. Below are conceptual principles that recur across eras. They are intentionally non-prescriptive. They describe considerations, not operational steps. 2.1. Primacy of political objectives. Strategy must subordinate military means to political ends. Military force that does not further political outcomes is wasted and dangerous. 2.2. Economy of force and prioritization. Resources are finite. Effective strategy concentrates effort where it has the most strategic value and avoids dissipating forces across low-value objectives. 2.3. Unity of purpose and command. Coherent leadership, clear chains of responsibility, and synchronized policy across government institutions reduce friction and improve outcomes. 2.4. Intelligence and situational awareness. High-level strategic decisions require timely, accurate information and an understanding of the adversary's motivations, constraints, and internal political dynamics. 2.5. Adaptability and resilience. Rigid plans fail in complex environments. Successful strategies anticipate change, embrace learning, and build institutional resilience. 2.6. Legitimacy and law. Political legitimacy, domestic and international, amplifies strategic options. Violations of law and norms degrade long-term national interests. 3. Historical case studies, lessons, non-actionable. History provides patterns and cautionary tales. The following case studies emphasize strategic lessons rather than techniques. 3.1. Napoleonic Wars, Grand Strategy and Logistics. Napoleon's early successes came from operational tempo and concentrating force. Yet campaigns such as the 1812 Russian invasion highlight strategic overreach. Objectives that exceeded logistical capacity and political justification can lead to catastrophic failure. Lesson: align objectives with sustainable resources. 3.2. World War I, misaligned ends and industrialized destruction. WWI illustrates how technological advances without corresponding strategic adaptation can produce stalemate and enormous human cost. Lesson: technological advantage must be integrated with doctrine, logistics, and political objectives, not assumed sufficient. 3.3. World War II, coalition strategy and combined arms. Allied victory rested on integrated, multifaceted approaches: industrial mobilization, economic blockade, intelligence cooperation, and synchronized land, sea, and air campaigns. Lesson: whole of government and allied cooperation multiply strategic effect. 3.4. Vietnam and counterinsurgency lessons. Conventional superiority struggled against asymmetric, politically fueled resistance. Political legitimacy, population security, and long-term commitment proved decisive. Lesson: military action must be embedded in political strategy and local legitimacy. 3.5. The Cold War, deterrence and political stability. The Cold War's predominant strategy was deterrence and competition without direct large-scale confrontation. Managing risk through credible deterrence, arms control, and stable channels of communication demonstrates how strategy can prioritize avoidance of catastrophic conflict. 4. Non-kinetic instruments of strategy. Modern strategy blends non-kinetic instruments that affect adversaries' behavior without direct violence. These instruments are legitimate tools of statecraft when used responsibly. 4.1. Diplomacy and negotiation. Coalition building, mediation, and negotiation often achieve durable outcomes more cheaply than force. Diplomatic networks can change adversaries' cost-benefit calculations. 4.2. Economic measures. Sanctions, trade policy, investment screening, and targeted economic measures influence state behavior. Effectiveness depends on enforcement, multilateral support, and minimizing humanitarian harm. 4.3. Information and influence. Strategic communications shape narratives and perceptions. Ethical use seeks truth and resists manipulation. Irresponsible propaganda undermines democratic norms and can escalate conflict. 4.4. Cyber defensive orientation. Cyber capabilities affect resilience, intelligence, and critical infrastructure. Emphasis on defense, resilience, and international norms helps reduce escalation risks. High-level discussion only. Operational cyber instructions are not appropriate here. 4.5. Law, norms, and institutions. International law, treaties, and institutions constrain conflict and provide dispute resolution pathways. States strengthen security by reinforcing norms and leveraging legal mechanisms. 5. Strategy and ethics. Strategy is not morally neutral. The ethical dimensions of strategic choice matter politically and practically. 5.1. Proportionality and discrimination. Ethical frameworks and international humanitarian law require proportionality and protecting civilians. Adherence to these norms preserves legitimacy and reduces long-term blowback. 5.2. Responsibility to protect versus sovereignty. Interventions framed as humanitarian must be scrutinized for true motives and likely consequences. Ethical strategy weighs immediate relief against long-term stability. 5.3. Post-conflict responsibility. Victors have obligations to rebuild institutions, support civil society, and enable reconciliation. Abandoning post-conflict responsibilities often produces insurgency and chronic instability. 6. Preparing for modern conflict. Defense, resilience, and deterrence. For policymakers focused on defense and preventing conflict escalation, the following high-level approaches are central. 6.1. Deterrence through credible defense. Deterrence rests on the adversary's perception that aggression will be too costly. Credibility comes from capability, resolve, and communication. Deterrence strategies should minimize risk of miscalculation and maintain channels for de-escalation. 6.2. Civil resilience and critical infrastructure. Societal resilience, robust supply chains, energy security and emergency services reduces vulnerabilities to coercion. Investment in redundancy and contingency planning is a defensive, non-offensive strategic posture. 6.3. Alliances and partnerships. Alliances share burdens, enhance interoperability, and create political costs for aggression. Cooperative defense increases deterrence and offers diplomatic leverage. 6.4. Strategic communications and counter-disinformation. Protecting information environments, educating the public, and promoting transparency fosters social cohesion and reduces the effectiveness of malign influence campaigns. 7. The limits of military force. Military force can destroy, deny, and shape conditions, but it rarely changes hearts and minds. Sustainable outcomes typically require political solutions, reconciliation, institution building, and economic renewal. History shows that reliance on force without political settlement is often transient. 8. Decision-making, ethics, and oversight. Democratic civilian control, legal oversight, transparent debate, and media scrutiny help ensure that strategic choices reflect national values and long-term interests. Strategic planners benefit from red teaming, diverse perspectives, and institutional checks to avoid groupthink and escalation ladders. Conclusion: strategy as responsible statecraft. A responsible high-level approach to strategy recognizes that the ultimate aim is political: to secure the peace in ways consistent with law, legitimacy, and human dignity. Effective statecraft blends a sober appreciation of military realities with diplomacy, economic policy, resilience, and international cooperation. The moral and pragmatic imperatives are aligned. Strategies that respect human life, law, and long-term stability are more likely to succeed and be sustainable.